Thank you, Vlad. And we start this hour with breaking news. FBI agents raided the home of Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton. A spokesperson for the agency tells CBS News that agents were conducting authorized activity in the area relating to classified documents. A number of Trump administration officials seemingly commented on the raid. Kash Patel posted this cryptic message to social media moments after the news broke this morning. It says, "No one is above the law. FBI agents on mission." Attorney General Pam Bondi also posted to social media today. She quoted Kash Patel with this comment: "America's safety isn't negotiable. Justice will be pursued always." Now, just moments ago, President Trump addressed the raid during a press conference at the Kennedy Center.
No, I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does. But he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything because they said, "Oh no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton's there." He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief you on this?
Yeah, they'll brief me probably today sometime.
And the foreign minister.
I tell Pam and I tell the group, I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer, but I feel that it's better this way.
Okay, let's bring in CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen for much more on this. Jake, thank you for joining us. We have some information coming into the newsroom. Can you walk us through what we know so far at this time?
Yeah, you got it, Mugo. Off the bat, we know that the FBI and federal law enforcement has searched two of John Bolton's either workplaces or residences. One is in Maryland, in which the FBI searched his home early this morning around 7 a.m. Also, right down the street from us, just a couple of blocks away, federal law enforcement is conducting a search as well, the FBI says, at a political action committee that Bolton founded. John Bolton PAC is what it's called. That is where the Associated Press says that they saw him earlier this morning talking to federal law enforcement there. We have not heard him say anything. He has not responded to phone calls yet from CBS News and our reporters here. What we do know is that sources have told CBS News that this investigation is centered around the handling of classified documents. And if you go back to 2020, right before the election, President Trump and the DOJ in his first administration sued Bolton to try to stop the publishing of a book. It was called The Room Where It Happened, and did not paint a good picture of President Trump's handling of international affairs. Obviously, as President Trump alluded to there, he and Bolton clashed often about that. The DOJ tried to sue to stop the publishing of the book, claiming it had classified information of it. A top military official said in a court filing that it did have classified information in the book, but yet a federal judge here in Washington, D.C. did not stop the publishing of that book. The DOJ had opened an investigation. Bolton was never charged, and it appears that investigation, at least as of today, has been reopened.
And Jake, you heard from the president there almost saying, he says bad things about me. Could this be seen as retaliation going after John Bolton years after he served with the president?
We've seen a pattern of not just these. This is the first high-profile instance of a FBI search at somebody who has been very vocally critical of President Trump. But we have also seen DOJ investigations into people who have gone after him either legally or have just been very critical of him. Think about top law enforcement officials, James Comey, James Clapper, to name two, go back to investigating Letitia James for a number of things, including mortgage fraud and potentially violating President Trump's civil rights in her investigations of President Trump in New York. This has been a 7-month campaign by the Trump administration to investigate the people who investigated him over the last 4 years while he was running for office again and a private citizen. Certainly, this is the latest high-profile example of making a scene, obviously, by the FBI FBI showing up at 7 a.m. to your house, although we should note to our audience that there have been no formal charges against Bolton as of this point.
You know, I know more information is still coming out on this, but do we know what kind of classified documents they could possibly be looking for at his home?
We do not, and we know that the classified documents are one part of the investigation. We are working to find out whether there's another facet of this. But we do know that the classified documents that were at the center of this book related to intelligence and how the U.S. had conducted intelligence back in the first Trump administration, and there were conversations in the book about how that intelligence would be handled. That was at the center of that initial investigation and lawsuit by the Department of Justice. Very likely, because obviously Ambassador Bolton has not been in any administration since then, that would probably still be the topic of this, but we have not confirmed that.
Okay. Jake Rosen, thank you so much for your reporting today. Appreciate it.